Well, hello, friends, new friends, old friends, strangers. So, if you're here, you are maybe somebody who's in my community who very recently learned about my multiple sclerosis diagnosis and are like, Cass, what the heck is going on? I'm going to tell you. You might be a person newly diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and looking for some relatable content. Hello. You might be the loved one of somebody who was recently diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and hello to you as well. So, a little bit about me and my journey with multiple sclerosis up to this point. So, I'm currently 38 years old. I'm not 30. And I was diagnosed with MS, which is how I will refer to it for the rest of this video, October 7th of 2025. If you're watching this on the day that I posted, which you may not be, it is May 29th, 2026 when I'm recording this, but May 30th, 2026 when I'm posting it, because May 30th is World MS Day. And World MS Day is where people who are affected by multiple sclerosis share their stories. So I am sharing mine. I'm going to tell you a little bit of kind of what led up to my diagnosis, my hospitalization, which is what helped me to have a confirmed diagnosis, and then treatment and experience, like a summary of that up to a certain point, because we're only so far in. Right. And if you see me looking down on occasion, I have notes because I really want to cover all of this as fully as possible, and I don't want to miss anything. And there's a lot to go over. So I was diagnosed October 7th, 2025, but in the weeks prior to that, I started having symptoms that initially I could explain away through other things. Had quite a few losses at the middle of last year, and was doing a lot of traveling for homegoing celebrations, and just was putting things into my body that I typically don't. I was eating more indulgent foods. I was drinking more regularly than I do. I'm not a heavy drinker anyway, but if you are familiar with Black people and how we process grief and loss, there is some somberness, and then there's also some celebration. And so initially, when I had numbness or just loss of sensation or inflammation, I had those things before with frequent travel and with like changes to my diet that were outside of the norm. So I was like, oh, it's all of this travel, it's all of this grief. I'm drinking more, I'm eating more indulgently. Surely, once I kind of get back to my homeostasis, things will calm down and we'll be back to normal and we'll be good to go. That did not happen. That did not happen at all. I started to notice that things were not getting better, so I reached out to my PCP. It was on one side more than the other, so she thought it might have been blood clots. So she had me get some imaging done, came back that it wasn't blood clots, which I was relieved about. But then I still didn't know what the heck was going on with my body, so I wasn't super relieved. She said, okay, let's just see if, as some time passes, things get better. Things did not get better. If you know me personally, I am a Pilates girl. Okay, Reformer Pilates, me and Reformer Pilates go together real bad. My hands are ashy. I just washed my hands, and I could stop this video and go inside and wash them, but I'm not. Okay, I'm not gonna do it. And so, in Reformer Pilates, there's a lot of footwork on the bar, and because I couldn't feel my feet, my foot did not touch the bar, and it slipped off. Thankfully, I did not hurt myself, but I very well could have. And that's when I was like, okay, something is not right. Very soon after that, I was at work. One of my student workers kind of looked at me quizzically and said, your shoes are coming off? Because my feet were so numb, I could not feel that my feet were sliding out of my sandals. I was like, okay, something is wrong. It's not blood clots, but something is wrong. And then I started to experience incontinence, which, if you're not familiar with that, incontinence is struggles with like holding waste until you are ready to eliminate. So at 37 years old, I had 2 accidents. I literally wet myself because I could not, between the urge to use the bathroom and walking to a restroom, could not hold in liquids. And that's when I was like, okay, so we got to figure this out. So I go back to my PCP. I was like, things are not better. Other stuff is happening. I'm really worried. I don't know what's going on. And she looks at me and she says, I've been your doctor for several years. I know you. So I'm telling you this because I think this will be helpful information for you to know so that you don't freak out, you don't get scared. She says, but from what you're telling me, I think you have multiple sclerosis. And when I heard it, I was like, oh, interesting. I am familiar with multiple sclerosis in that I know it exists. One of my favorite singers of all time, literally my favorite singer of all time, has multiple sclerosis, Tamia. And she has been living with multiple sclerosis, I think maybe for 30 years at this point, and has a full, thriving, happy life. And so I was like, okay, so this is manageable, but I still don't know what that means for me. So my doctor gives me a very high dose oral steroid, says, take this. If things get better, great. We're gonna do some imaging, figure out what's going on, but at least we have an understanding of what's happening with your body. If things get worse, you need to go to the hospital. So I'm taking this very high dose oral steroid. Things are not getting better. They are getting worse. That was when I had the second accident. And I was like, oh, okay, well, we're going to the hospital. So I knew Sunday night, which was October 5th, that I was going to the hospital Monday morning. And I didn't tell anyone at first because I thought that I might be able to go to the emergency room, get a diagnosis, get some treatment, go home. And I would tell people after the fact. But there was part of me that knew it wasn't going to be that swift. So I legitimately packed all of my toiletries, clothes, laptop, everything I thought I could need, and took it with me to the hospital because I thought that I might have to be admitted. And I was. After sitting in the emergency room for 12 hours. I got to the emergency room, told them what was going on, told them what my doctor suspected. They said, great, we're going to run some tests just to get a little bit more confirmation. Great. They did 2 MRIs. I believe it was my thoracic spine and my lumbar spine. So you have 3 parts of your spine: cervical, which is not near your cervix if you have one, it is the top, and then your thoracic spine and your lumbar spine. So they did an MRI of my thoracic spine and my lumbar spine without contrast. That's important to know. They get the results back. They're like, yes, you do have lesions on your spine that are indicative of multiple sclerosis. So now we have to admit you because you are also in what we believe is in your initial MS flare-up. And we need to provide you with some treatment so that some of this inflammation can calm down and so that we can get more conclusive answers. So at that point, I did tell people I was in the hospital. 3 of my very close friends here, and then a really good friend of mine who is in California. So I told Jasmine, I told Delana, I told Shani, and I told my friend Mariah. And that for a while was the bulk of who knew, in addition to my mother. And my mother obviously told my maternal siblings. So they admit me. I have to have more MRIs now. If you see a random person, it's the UPS man. I'm outside because I've been filming most of these in my car. So I was like, let's do that. So I have to get 8 more MRIs. I have to get an MRI of my brain and all 3 parts of my spine: cervical, thoracic, lumbar, with and without contrast. So in a 24-hour time period, I have had 10 MRIs. And yes, that is very expensive. It is extremely expensive. I'm trying not to get distracted because I can see him out of my peripheral, out of my side vision. So they do the MRIs, they get the results back of the MRIs, and yes, it is something neurological. We believe it to be relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis, but we actually have to do more tests. So at that point, they then proceed over the course of the next 3 or 4 days to take 21 vials of blood, to do a litany of tests, to make sure that it wasn't a more progressive neurological disease. Thankfully, it was not, but that is terrifying to hear that that might be a possibility. And I am not an easy person to find veins on. And I quote the lady at the hospital who had to use the vein Doppler to find my veins, said, "You're such a pretty girl, but you got ugly veins." And I was like, I don't really know what you want me to do about this, Miss Gertrude. I'm pretty sure that's not her name, but for the sake of this video, it is. So 21 vials of blood, 3 days of very intense steroid drips. I think it was like 100 milligrams of steroids a day, which if you've not ever taken steroids, cause immense constipation. Not only that, I was also on a muscle relaxer, which also causes immense constipation. So I became very familiar with suppositories during my time in the hospital. Or as I like to call it, my 4-day, 3-night stay at the VUMC resort, because it costs more than any vacation I have ever taken. So they do all this. Throughout the course of this, I contact some very close friends of mine. I tell my mother, who tells my sisters. My mother also tells me to text her the spelling of multiple sclerosis because, mama got to look stuff up, see what's going on. I tell my 2 best friends, Melinda and Nadia. I tell my friends in my group chat, Keisha and Katie. I tell Kayla. I tell my folks here. And I point that out because I know there are some people who are just learning that I have multiple sclerosis and are confused and are probably going to want to jump on me if they think that I was navigating this by myself. I was not. I was navigating it with a very small, primarily local community, but I needed to do it in this way for a myriad of reasons. Last year was a rough year, and that's putting it mildly. And I have a huge community. I am peak extrovert energy. And I knew that if I let the whole world in all at once, everyone was going to rally around me because that is what good community members do. And I was scared that I would get knocked down and never be able to get back up. And I didn't want that. I was already fighting through life. I felt like grief had become my personality. My best friend's younger brother passed away. 6 months later, my younger brother passed away. 4 weeks before that, a really good friend of mine passed away. 2 weeks before that, my sister's dad passed away. And I was like, I'm reaching the end of the little bit of rope that I have. So something's got to give. And I decided in that moment that I was going to have to take whatever strength I had and fight my way back onto my feet. And so that's what I did with the support of my community. But that is what I did. A lot of my friends did not know. Several people I didn't tell for several reasons. I didn't tell anybody on my paternal side of the family until after I was out of the hospital because my brother went into the hospital and did not come home. And I was like, well, what we don't need is another relative in the hospital and people freaking out. Because love my family, people will freak out and then stress you out with their freakouts. And that's really not what I need when I am navigating the early stages of a disorder that is exacerbated by stress. People didn't like that, but that's what I needed. Some of my friends who were also grieving the loss of a very close friend of mine, I did not tell them because we was barely holding on. And I was like, I don't need to give you another friend to worry about right now, which is something I'm processing with my therapist, but that is part of why I waited to say anything. So why am I saying anything now? Well, again, today is World MS Day. And today is the day where people living with MS share their stories. And so that is what I wanted to do. I also wanted to give people who may look like me someone they can relate to, because when I initially found out about my diagnosis, I was searching for answers, and every diagnosis affects each person differently, but it definitely affects you differently based on race and or gender, biological sex / gender. And I didn't see anybody who looked like me, and most of the videos that I found were very old. And so I was like, well, let me put something out there so that if anybody else goes searching for something, they can find it. Where am I now? Watch the videos. You'll figure it out. But I am good. In general, today, I am very good. If you choose to watch the videos, it is kind of a snapshot into what life has been like for the past 7.5-ish months or so. The ups, the downs, the in-betweens. You will see my joy, you will see my gratitude, you will see my irritation. You will see raw, unfiltered emotional experiences. I didn't even edit these videos really, because I just wanted to put it out there so people could see what it has been like for me. But I wanted to put it out there so people know, people are aware, and to give voice to something that I still am learning a lot about, and initially didn't have a whole lot of community for and with. So I hope this helps somebody. I also hope that people understand that I am a millennial and dark humor is my portion. It is how I cope. So you are going to see dark humor in all of these videos if you watch them, and if you don't like it, that's between you and whatever higher power you answer to. This is how I coped with my experience. But I did want to shout out all of my friends and my family who checked on me, my sisters, who called me to talk to me and make sure I was okay. My mama, of course. I get very emotional about my mama. So moving on, my really, really, really good friends. I also know it was difficult for them to see me in such a challenging place. And so I'm very thankful that they were still willing to be present with and for me. I was never alone at the hospital. Delana, Jasmine, Shani all came to the hospital to check on me. Delana got the brunt of my dark humor jokes. She is going to really be upset that I'm mentioning this, but part of the struggle with being in the hospital, one, they kept getting my food wrong. They kept bringing me things I could not eat. And by the time they fixed it, the kitchen was closed. So I was living off of Uncrustables. I was also in a hallway. I did not get a room until like day 2 in the hospital. And so me, being who I am, when they rolled me into the room, you have to be familiar with Tyler Perry movies to get this reference. But as they're rolling me into the room, I put my hands on where I'll be sleeping and I go, my bed, my bed. She didn't think I was funny. That's top tier comedy and content if you ask me. But anyway, this is my story, my experience with MS. I'm probably leaving things out. It's a lot of information to take in for one person. I'm still figuring things out from day to day, but I'm very thankful for where I am on my journey up to this point. And I'm really looking forward to see what things continue to look like as I get the support and the treatment that I need. So thank you for watching. Hopefully you will watch the other videos, but if not, thank you for watching this one. And I'll catch y'all in the next chapter of the MS Diaries. Bye.